leadership team, Colonel Nunn, for being here with us this morning. There is a lot going on, and we want to give you some updates on things. I hope everybody had a blessed Thanksgiving. It is true that our hearts were heavy, of course, with Sarah and Andrew, these two selfless National Guardsmen who were senselessly attacked while they volunteered for service to defend the rest of their fellow Americans, and they literally took bullets for it. And so our prayers are with Andrew as he recovers, and our hearts and prayers are with the family of Sarah. It reminds us that freedom isn't free, and some people make the ultimate sacrifice so the rest of us can have that. You know, I was reminding our conference this morning, 1789, our first president, George Washington, was the first to issue a national day of Thanksgiving and prayer, a proclamation. And he declared that because the Congress requested it of him. And of course, Washington was the first and best person to do that, to start the tradition. And he wrote famously in his proclamation, he said, it is the duty of all of us. It is our duty to acknowledge the blessings of God, to be grateful for what he's done for our country and all of us individually, and to humbly implore his protection and favor. It's never been more important to do that, and it's a great reminder. Thanksgiving is a uniquely American holiday, as we know. And it's a great time to sit around the table and be reminded of those blessings. And chief among them is the freedom that we enjoy. And we do not take that for granted. So it's proper, appropriate for us to acknowledge those sacrifices. Now, there's a lot going on across the country. There's a special election in Tennessee today, you may have heard. Tennessee's 7th District. I spent all day there yesterday. I think it was 10 hours and 12 events, I think. I was with Matt Van Epps, our Republican extraordinary candidate for the seat there that is open and will be filled today in the election. He's running against someone who truly is, by any objective measure, a real radical. She famously said that she hates Nashville, which is the largest city in the district, which is kind of an interesting campaign strategy, and hates country music. You know, it's Tennessee. So Matt Van Epps is an extraordinary candidate by contrast. He is a lieutenant colonel in the Tennessee Army National Guard. He's a combat veteran. He flew combat missions, deployed 8 times over to the Middle East, and dodged missiles and bullets for his country. He worked in Tennessee state government and is a highly capable, competent, calm, common sense conservative. He's exactly what that district needs. We're excited for him, devoted husband and father, America First patriot. So hey, if you're in Tennessee's 7th District, Nashville, and 14 counties, go vote today. It matters. Special elections are strange animals, and anything can happen. And when you're in a deep red district, sometimes people assume that the Republican, the conservative, will win, and you cannot assume that because anything can happen. So we encourage everybody to go out there and make that happen. The people are fired up. I was there and really enjoyed the energy there. We're going to see that across the country next week as we go into this very important midterm election next year. I mean, in all the weeks ahead. And as we go into that election, remembering, again, how important all of this is. And as we put some posters up here to remind you and remind all of ourselves what an extraordinary run we've had in the 119th Congress. Now, in spite of the fact that we had razor-thin majority, I mean, it many times, as you know, 1 or 2 vote margin, we still have had one of the most consequential Congresses in the great history of this extraordinary nation. And you know, if you look at what has been accomplished for the first 10 months of this term, this year, the 119th Congress, this new administration, you could stack that up against any Congress in history. I think it's probably in the top 5 in terms of marquee landmark achievements. And, you know, part of our, both a blessing and a curse is we did so much of it in the One Big Beautiful Bill, the Working Families Tax Cut. There's so much to talk about. It's as if it just got brushed aside. But the component pieces of that is some of the most nation-shaping, productive, pro-growth policies that have ever occurred to help all Americans. And we look forward to all the provisions of that bill being implemented beginning really in earnest in the first part of the year. And so the first quarter, second quarter will be a very different scenario. But we're excited to go through that. We can't fix everything overnight. And the Biden-Harris administration, as we said so many times, in 4 years really destroyed almost every metric of public policy. Don't go flip a switch to do that. It takes some time. And we've been working earnestly and around the clock to do that, to work on solutions, to solve all those problems, and to make government more efficient and effective and responsive. Republicans have been delivering and working to bring down costs for American families, to fix the Democrats' broken health care system, and to rid our streets of violent criminals and dangerous illegal aliens. All this has been our goal since January, and we've been delivering. And as the year comes to an end, we started to reflect upon what we've done in that first 10 months and ultimately the first 12 months, and it's really something. The Working Families Tax Cut, let me just tell you some of the components of that, because people seem to have forgotten. It was a permanent extension of the 2017 tax cuts, which is collectively it's the biggest tax cut in U.S. history. Had we not passed the big bill, we would have had a $5 trillion tax increase on all hardworking American families as that expired in December. It was a marquee achievement. We also in that included permanent estate tax relief extensions. We had landmark Medicaid program reforms, which the CBO has said is going to save $185 billion and reduce premiums on everybody for their health care. We expanded the SNAP work requirements to get ineligible recipients off, young able-bodied men with no dependents or health problems. They shouldn't be riding the wagon, and they won't anymore. In the bill, we increased border enforcement and funding, generational investment in those things, and it's worked because guess what? The border is sealed. We don't have all these illegals coming across the border anymore. We included no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, increased standard deduction for seniors, free tax savings accounts for every child born in America, which we'll be announcing at the White House in an event this afternoon. Business tax provisions to incentivize investments and innovation. That's all in the bill and much more. We codified 67 of President Trump's America First executive orders so far, and there are many more to come. We repealed Biden-era regulations with 23 Congressional Review Act resolutions. Now, this is important, too. We've been making history along the way over the last 10 months. In the entire time that CRA's, Congressional Review Acts, have been part of the law, only 20 had been signed into law since the inception of that instrument. This year alone, we have already passed 23 of those out of the House, and 16 of those have been signed into law. That's a big thing. We've restored regular order to the appropriations process, and y'all know what a big thing that was. The goal of mine since I became Speaker a little over 2 years ago was to restore regular order, because instead of governing by an omnibus before Christmas, which is no way to do stewardship, we wanted to get back to 12 separate appropriations bills, and as you saw, when we reopened government, one of the things the President signed was 3 regular order appropriations bills signed into law. What a marquee achievement. We had agriculture, legislative branch, military construction, VA bill signed into law, and both chambers and the appropriators are working right now to put the next bills, get them prepared, and get them enacted and signed into law. We've also, in the last 10 months, defunded wasteful spending through rescissions, billions of dollars there. We passed and signed into law the Genius Act, the bipartisan landmark crypto legislation. We passed and signed into law the Lake and Riley Act, the Halt Fentanyl Act, and the Take It Down Act. And the House has passed the SAVE Act, the Illegitimate Court Counter Action Act, Protecting American Energy Production Act, the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act, Fix Our Forest Act, the Ticket Act, Unlocking Our Domestic LNG Potential Act, American Entrepreneurs First Act, Stop Illegal Entry Act, Made in America Defense Act. I could go on and on and on. Remember, these are just the top lines. The House has passed 331 pieces of legislation this year that will directly improve the quality of life for millions of American families, and that's a lot to be thankful for. By the way, just this week, as was mentioned earlier, President Trump is signing into law the IRS Math and Taxpayer Help Act. It received little fanfare in the media, but it's a bill that will provide taxpayers fairer treatment when corresponding with the IRS regarding tax returns, and that's a big thing as we go into tax season in the first quarter. It's the type of work that House Republicans are doing here every day in these halls. We're working on real solutions to real problems for our constituents. As I mentioned, the Working Families Tax Cut, if we were just to go through every provision of that bill that's going to make life easier and safer and more affordable for American families, we would be here until Christmas. So I'm not going to do that for you, but we're not going to rest on our laurels, okay? The American people delivered a clear mandate last fall for us to fix everything, and we're going to sprint through the finish line next November. We'll be adding a new member. I expect Matt Van Epps is going to win that election today, and we will bring our freshman class of Republicans up to the number of 36, adding another vote to that margin every single day, and we'll keep working. We're more confident than ever that the Working Families Tax Cut provisions are implemented. As that happens in the first quarter, second quarter, American families begin to receive financial relief. Republicans are not just going to hold on to the majority. We're going to grow it. And over the next weeks and months, House Republicans will advance legislation to continue to bring down the cost of health care for working families, to ensure our fighting force remains the most lethal and the best prepared in the world, and to fully fund the government for the upcoming fiscal year in a responsible way while maintaining good stewardship of taxpayer resources. This week, as the leader mentioned, we'll pass legislation to reduce the regulatory burden on small businesses further, to keep the Chinese Communist Party out of America's classrooms. That's a big and important endeavor. And to establish a landmark nationwide NIL framework for collegiate athletics and empower student athletes to maximize their college experience. Despite the unrelenting stream of palace intrigue stories that fill the pages of your publications, House Republicans remain united and focused on delivering results for our constituents. That's how we've gotten this done. That's how we'll continue to do it. And that will be happening in earnest in the weeks and months to come. So we'll take a few questions if you have them. Okay. You're so eager. I got to get it.
We have a relationship at this point. First off, happy Thanksgiving as well. But quick question: what are your thoughts about, and not related to the Minnesota welfare scandal, but specifically, what are your thoughts about President Trump calling Governor Walz retarded?
Well, look, that's not the word that I would choose. I think his reaction was probably a spontaneous one to the enormous amount of fraud that was announced there. We're thinking it may be, could be $2 billion. Congressman Emmer, of course, represents that state, and it is an outrage. And we're told that this was funding terrorist organizations in Somalia, and so it's a lot to look into. I mean, all of us, when we heard the news, we reacted in different ways, and you know, that's not the word I would choose. But I think everybody understands how absurd and crazy that is, and how Congress has an immediate obligation to look into it, and the administration is as well, and we're going to get down to the bottom of that. Governor Walz appears to have a lot to answer for, so it was a really stupid thing.
Thank you so much.